Inauguration. We hear what they have to say. Mike Pompeo remains an outspoken critic of the Chinese regime's human rights abuses. Before leaving office, he labeled Beijing's treatment of the Uyghur minority genocide. Now he and 27 other Trump officials are officially sanctioned from traveling to China. On his first day in office, President Biden signed 17 executive orders. Several of them reversed former President Trump's actions.
I think some of the things we're going to be doing are bold and vital, and there's no time to start like today.
In his first executive order, Biden mandated social distancing and wearing masks on federal property. He's also encouraging all Americans to wear masks for the first 100 days of his administration. Some others lean towards implementing quasi-Marxist critical theory across the federal government. For example, Biden will direct all federal agencies to undertake a baseline review of the state of equity within their agency and deliver an action plan to change this. It aims to even out the number of people from different identity groups involved in federal programs and institutions. This approach requires favoring less represented groups, typically minority groups. Several other executive actions undo steps taken by former President Donald Trump, such as ending Trump's anti-terrorism travel ban. Trump's actions targeted a small portion of majority Muslim and African countries. Biden's proclamation labeled the ban discriminatory. Biden announced he was keeping his promise on the Paris Agreement.
Is the commitment I made that we're going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord as of today.
He revoked a vital permit for the Keystone XL oil pipeline to Canada. He also shut down oil and gas work in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Several of these decisions have met with criticism. A group of Republican senators immediately called on Biden to allow the Senate to review and consider his plan to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement. Alaska's Republican governor criticized the step to prevent oil and gas production in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Biden also halted funding for the Mexico border wall and rescinded Trump's 1776 commission. Biden told the media that Trump left him a very generous letter. It's a tradition for outgoing presidents. But Biden said because it's private, he won't talk about it until he speaks to the former president. The new White House press secretary, in her first briefing, says President Biden will speak with the Canadian Prime Minister on Friday.
So his first foreign leader call will be on Friday with Prime Minister Trudeau. I expect they will certainly discuss the important relationship with Canada, as well as his decision on the Keystone Pipeline.
Biden's decision to end the Keystone XL pipeline is expected to be the key issue. Prime Minister Trudeau already expressed his disappointment with Biden's stated plans. The New York Post reports that Trudeau spoke directly with Biden about the issue in November. Trudeau noted in a statement to the Post that Canada is the single largest supplier of energy to the United States. Work on the pipeline was already being suspended even before Biden made his declaration official. The energy pipeline was proposed in 2008. It was vetoed by President Obama in 2015, but renewed by President Trump. On the same day as Biden's inauguration, Biden signed an executive order to end construction of it. President Joe Biden swore in nearly 1,000 appointees in a virtual ceremony from the White House. He called on the appointees to restore decency through their service.
President Joe Biden held a virtual swearing-in ceremony for nearly 1,000 appointees, introduced by the Director of White House Office of Presidential Personnel, Kathy Russell.
You're engaged in and you're working with the most decent government in the world. And we have to restore the soul of this country, and I'm counting on all of you to be part of that.
Biden told the appointees the weight of responsibility upon them.
And history going to measure us, and our fellow Americans will measure us by how decent, honorable, and smart we've been in terms of looking out for their interest.
He says America is facing systemic racism, a pandemic, and an economy that needs rescuing. He told the room there's a lot to do. Biden then recalled a private dinner he took with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping, in which Biden said he could define America in one word: possibilities. He said those joining him by video link were the ones who were going to get things done. Biden then asked the appointees to raise their right hands and repeat the oath of office. There was no audio from the appointees during this or any part of the ceremony.
Surgeon General Jerome Adams confirms that the Biden team requested he step down. Adams made the announcement in a tweet several hours before Biden took the oath of office. Biden's pick for Adams' replacement is former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. He has advised Biden on the CCP virus pandemic. Adams holds the rank of Vice Admiral in the Commissioned Corps of the U.S. Public Health Service. He was confirmed by the Senate in 2017 to serve as Surgeon General under the Trump administration. His 4-year term was set to expire in September. In a post on Facebook, Adams reflected on his time in office, noting that his tenure started with 3 Category 5 hurricanes. He also wrote about dealing with the opioid epidemic and the CCP virus pandemic. As the Biden administration settles into the White House, the Senate is also busy confirming Biden's cabinet members. A newly confirmed Director of National Intelligence will be joining the administration soon.
On Wednesday, the Senate confirmed President Biden's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. The Senate voted to confirm her following a hearing by the Senate Intelligence Committee the day before.
Do you solemnly swear to give this committee the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. Please be seated.
Haines is the first Biden cabinet member approved by the Senate. All Democrat senators voted to confirm her, while 10 Republicans dissented. Haines will be the head of the nation's intelligence community.
And to be trusted, the DNI must uphold our democratic values and ensure that the work of the intelligence community, mostly done in secret, is ethical, is wise, is lawful, and effective.
Haines previously served under the Obama administration. On the issue of countering communist China, she says the U.S. should adopt a more aggressive stance.
I think our approach to China has to evolve and essentially meet the reality of the particularly assertive and aggressive China that we see today. China is a challenge to our security, to our prosperity, to our values across a range of issues, and I do support an aggressive stance, in a sense, to deal with the challenge that we're facing.
On the issue of Iran, Haines says the Biden administration is willing to re-enter the Iranian nuclear deal if Iran also complies with it, despite the nation stockpiling nuclear fuel above a critical threshold and blocking inspection at suspect sites. 4 other Senate committees also held nomination hearings for other Biden nominees to the cabinet. The Senate is expected to vote on their nominations in the upcoming days.
New York Senator Chuck Schumer is taking up a new post. He will now serve as Senate Majority Leader as power in the chamber shifts toward Democrats.
In a statement, Schumer called himself a partner to Biden and Harris, one quote, ready, willing, and able to help achieve a forward-looking agenda.
President Biden, we heard you loud and clear. We have a lengthy agenda, and we need to get it done together.
He took up the position after Vice President Kamala Harris swore in Georgia Senators Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock, giving Democrats the majority in the chamber.
And as the majority changes in the Senate will do business differently. The Senate will address the challenges our country faces head-on and without delay, not with timid solutions, but with boldness and with courage.
Currently, Democrats and Republicans each hold 50 seats in the Senate. That means Harris, as vice president, is the tiebreaker and shifts control to Democrats. Earlier this month, Schumer said his first priority as majority leader would be sending out $1,400 stimulus payments. The New York Democrat also said he plans to prioritize the deployment of the CCP virus vaccine. Republicans will still maintain some power in the Senate due to the filibuster rule. It allows a single member to block a vote unless 60 senators vote to close the debate.
A Wyoming lawmaker is getting a jump on the 2020 congressional race. He's filing for the seat held by Republican Congressmember Liz Cheney. Wyoming State Senator Anthony Bouchard, a Republican, filed the statement that's needed to become a candidate. Cheney drew widespread criticism for voting with Democrats and 9 other Republicans last week to impeach then-President Trump. Defending her stance, she said Trump deserved to be impeached because of his alleged incitement of the January 6th U.S. Capitol breach. Bouchard says Cheney's opposition to Trump shows she's out of touch with the state, pointing out that Wyoming was President Trump's best state both times he ran. A petition for Cheney's removal topped 36,000 votes as of January 20th. And leaders around the world are reacting to President Joe Biden's inauguration. Here's what they're saying.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says Biden's inauguration is a step forward for the United States.
Actually, when you look at the issues that unite me and Joe Biden, the UK and the United States right now, there's a fantastic joint common agenda.
Mexico's president asked Biden to give legal immigration status to Mexicans working in the U.S.
We have been proposing that our countrymen who have been working for years should be regularized, contributing to the development of that great nation.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said our countries are close friends, partners, and allies. He writes, "We will continue this partnership as we fight the global COVID-19 pandemic and support a sustainable economic recovery that will build back better for everyone." In Russia, the Kremlin said it welcomes Biden's efforts to extend the New START nuclear arms control treaty, which expires in February. Germany's president says he's greatly relieved at the change of power.
With the inauguration of the new government in Washington comes hope that the international community can work together more closely and better in the future to solve the great problems of our time.
France's prime minister says, "We will be stronger to face the challenges of our time, stronger to build our future, stronger to protect our planet." NATO Secretary General says, "I congratulate President Joe Biden on his inauguration day. A strong NATO is good for both North America and Europe, as none of us can tackle the challenges we face alone." And Israel's prime minister noted his long friendship with Biden.
"I look forward to working with you to further strengthen the U.S.-Israel alliance, to continue expanding peace between Israel and the Arab world, and to confront common challenges."
He also tweeted a farewell note for President Trump. He writes, "Thank you for all the great things you have done for Israel, especially your historic recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and bringing 4 peace agreements between Israel and the Arab world."
The Chinese regime imposes new sanctions on Trump administration officials. That includes former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is an outspoken critic of the regime's human rights violations.
The Chinese Communist Party's Ministry of Foreign Affairs will impose sanctions on former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and other Trump administration officials. The retaliatory move comes one day after Pompeo declared the CCP's repression of Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang region a genocide. Biden's pick for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told a Senate hearing on Tuesday that he agreed with the designation. The CCP's repression of Uyghurs has drawn international condemnation. It's perpetrated through a network of internment camps and a massive surveillance system. A CCP ministry spokesperson defended the sanctions against Pompeo and 27 others by claiming that they undertook, quote, crazy actions, damaged U.S.-China relations, and hurt the feelings of the Chinese people. The American officials named and their immediate family members will be banned from entering mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau. The sanction also restricts companies affiliated with them from doing business with China.
President Biden's nominee for Secretary of State is proposing a new approach to countering the influence of the CCP. Our reporter Juliet Song spoke with an expert to get his perspective on this new approach.
At the confirmation hearing on Tuesday, President Biden's pick for Secretary of State said he agrees with Trump's approach to China in some aspects.
I also believe that President Trump was right in taking a tougher approach to China. I disagree very much with the way that he went about it in a number of areas, but the basic principle was the right one, and I think that's actually helpful to our foreign policy.
Blinken says there is no doubt China poses the most significant challenge of any nation-state to the U.S.
There are, as I see it, rising adversarial aspects to the relationship, certainly competitive ones, and still some cooperative ones when it is in our mutual interest.
He adds that the U.S. needs to deal with the communist regime by working with allies, what he calls a position of strength.
Position of strength when we are working with, not denigrating, our allies. That's a source of strength for us in dealing with China.
A U.S.-based China commentator says the biggest difference between the two administrations' China approaches is their foundation.
The Trump administration approaches the Chinese regime from an ideological perspective. That's why we see when Pompeo told the European countries it's not a choice between the U.S. and China, but a choice between freedom and tyranny.
Tang says Blinken's China approach aims to form an interest-based alliance to counter Beijing.
And an alliance based on interest would bring a problem. Even though it looks powerful by numbers, it's also loose and easy to break apart. And we're already seeing alarming signs now.
Multiple U.S. allies signed economic deals with China in recent months. This includes countries in both Europe and the Asia-Pacific region.
So if you want to corner the Chinese Communist Party with an interest-based alliance, the CCP can also easily split up and corrupt your allies with economic interests. Signing these trade deals suggests these countries won't suggest cooperation with the communist regime on some important economic areas.
Tang adds that as long as the Chinese regime can get its hands on Western capital and technology, it can use it to grow its power to a point beyond control.
And then it can overtake the United States as the most powerful country in the world. Once it reaches that level, no country in this world will be able to rein in the CCP. It could really dominate the world.
He says the Chinese regime's conflict with the international society is rooted in its communist ideology, and that crippling the regime's economic power would be one of the most effective ways to counter its influence. Juliet Song, NTD News.
The outgoing Federal Communications Commission chairman issues a warning. It details what he calls the biggest communication and internet threats that regulators will face over the next 4 years. Ajit Pai says Chinese spying, threats to networks, and lessening internet freedoms are the biggest looming national security issues. He told Reuters there's a wide array of concerning activity coming from China, adding that it includes surveillance, economic espionage, and potential injection of malware into U.S. and global networks. Pai was named chairman in January 2017 by then-President Donald Trump. He stepped down on Wednesday. During his tenure, the FCC cracked down on Chinese network manufacturers like Huawei and ZTE. Last month, the department began the process of revoking China Telecom's authorization to operate in the United States. China Telecom is China's largest telecommunications company. President Trump worked closely with the Treasury Department to counter threats from China. But how will the department look under President Biden? NTD's Penny Zhou has more on the big China decision awaiting Biden's nominee for Treasury Secretary.
Another important cabinet member that has a big say in how America's China policy goes is the Treasury Secretary. President Biden's nominee for that post is Janet Yellen. The former Federal Reserve Chair will have to make some big decisions, including what to do with President Trump's tariffs and sanctions against Communist China, and how to deal with national security risks posed by Chinese tech companies.
Well, China is clearly our most important strategic competitor. As you said, we need to work with allies. We also need to strengthen our own economy so that we can compete. We need to take on China's abusive, unfair, and illegal practices. We're prepared to use the full array of tools to address. Of course, it is important over time to work with our allies.
By framing China as a strategic competitor, Yellen echoes other Biden cabinet members. And her emphasis on working with allies is in line with her previous criticism against what's often called the unilateral approach President Trump adopted when countering China. It mainly refers to the trade war. President Trump slapped tariffs on hundreds of billions worth of Chinese imports, thus to punish the regime's abusive trade behaviors. Yellen has been a vocal critic of Trump's trade war against China, but neither she nor President Biden has said whether they will remove the tariffs. They have also been vague about exactly how they will counter threats from Communist China if they were to replace Trump's policies. President Trump relied heavily on the Treasury Department's sanction to punish CCP officials involved in human rights abuses. It remains to be seen whether Yellen would keep these approaches. If confirmed as Treasury Secretary, Yellen would also need to decide what to do with Chinese tech companies. President Trump considered banning TikTok and other Chinese apps, citing Americans' data safety as a concern. All Chinese companies are required by law to share intelligence with the CCP when necessary. Yellen has previously warned of the risks of technological decoupling between the U.S. and China, saying, quote, the rivalry could hinder technological progress since it will stop countries' abilities to learn from each other. In addition, Yellen will oversee CFIUS. That's an agency within the department that assesses whether a certain foreign investment poses a threat to U.S. national security.
Our colleagues believe that China has found gaps in both the existing CFIUS process and export control regime, and is exploiting each of them to the detriment of U.S. national security.
In the past few years, the agency has stepped up its scrutiny of Chinese investment. It has banned a suspicious Chinese company from acquiring U.S. firms possessing large amounts of sensitive user data. It remains to be seen whether the new secretary will keep the pressure on the CCP or change course. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Reuters says the Senate plans to meet on Friday to consider the nomination of Yellen. It's possible she will be confirmed that day. And coming up, a California school board member is labeled as a terrorist and asked to step down after attending the Trump rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Find out more after the break. Provides hosting services. Parler's chief operating officer told the New York Times that DDoS Guard supports only a temporary web page, saying the company will attempt to find other firms to operate its social media network. The website is still having trouble getting back online. Some have speculated Parler plans to use the Russian company's hosting services and would then be subjected to Russian laws. But Parler CEO Jeffrey Wernick says he's not using the Russian company's hosting services and prefers to find an American firm for that. DDoS Guard says it does not disclose customer data to third parties. A Southern California school board member faces a signature campaign demanding her resignation. It's because she attended the Washington, D.C. Trump rally on January 6th. NTD's Zach Lee has more.
This was kind of expected because, I'm conservative and they don't agree with my views.
Leandra Blades is a former anti-terrorism officer with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. In 2020, she was elected as a school board member for the Placentia-Yorba Linda Unified School District. But now she is facing a petition with over 8,000 people calling for her resignation because of this photo. Her friend posted the photo when they went on a girls' trip to attend the Trump rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6th.
We left the rally because we heard that there was violence inside. That's not what I was there for. That's not what my friends were there for. That's not what the people around us were there for.
Blades said she never went into the Capitol building, nor was she aware of the rioting before taking the picture. But that picture drew a lot of attention overnight. A group of students from her district, named PYLUSD Against Terrorism, started a campaign right afterwards. They claimed Blades supported the domestic terrorists and demanded her to immediately resign. The former officer and now school board member said she is not a terrorist nor an insurrectionist.
It's awful to be called a terrorist when all I've ever done as a law enforcement officer is wanting to uphold the law. I believe in law and order, but I also too am a strong supporter of our Constitution. And I'm a strong supporter of our Constitution for both sides.
Blades said although her messages were flooded with hate mail, she also got a lot of support. Some students created a different page on change.org asking people to stand with Blades. It has collected nearly 5,000 signatures.
I will continue to stand up for my beliefs. I'm not resigning. I'm not going to back down. It's just what I believe in. I believe in being fair. I believe in working together with people who may not agree with me. And I just believe that we can do so much better, not only as a community, but as a nation.
Blades said the petition has no restraining effect on her position, but she believes it is also a good opportunity for students and parents to express their conservative values who once felt that they had no voice. Reporting by Alex Marashko and Zach Lee, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein is defending fellow Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, both Republicans, after they objected to the counting of electoral votes earlier this month. California Democrat Feinstein told reporters in Washington she thinks the Senate is a place of freedom. She explained the importance of having somewhere to have dialogue where people can voice their perspectives, saying that in doing so, they provide a kind of leadership. Hawley and Cruz were two of the senators that voted against both Pennsylvania and Arizona's electoral college votes on January 6th during the joint session of Congress. Some Democrats want to take punitive actions against the senators. Award-winning investigative journalist Mariana Van Zeller promises to captivate audiences as she explores the most dangerous black markets around the world in her new National Geographic show, Trafficked.
The first season of the documentary series is broken into 8 differently themed episodes: tigers, cocaine, counterfeiting, scam, steroids, fentanyl, pimps, and guns. All 8 have a common underlying thread: tiger and tiger part trafficking.
Completely new, completely original.
마루 유치원 폐쇄 명령서입니다.
전 폐쇄 명령 받아들일 수 없습니다.
유치원 폐쇄 명령이라.
좀 들어간 건 어떻게 됐어? 도저히 방법이 없.
NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more on how his resignation is sparking concerns.
Now we turn to the wealthiest man in Asia. Chinese businessman Zhong Sansan resigned as chairman of a drug maker for personal reasons last week. Zhong is the founder of Wantai Biopharm. Forbes says his net worth reaches about $90 billion, making him the most affluent man in China. That's as of January 1st. Despite the resignation, he still holds over 70% of the company's shares, both directly and indirectly. The company says its CCP virus vaccine is still in phase 2 of clinical trials. The research and development phase has been slower than its competitors. As a result, the company's share price is facing about 10% fluctuations. Another Chinese drug maker is in a similar situation. The chairman and general manager of Sinopharm Group also resigned last week for personal reasons. The abrupt moves have sparked suspicion, especially as the safety and effectiveness of Chinese vaccines are facing questions from international experts. Now we turn to a Chinese lab responsible for processing virus test results. It's since been found to have falsified some results. More than 300,000 residents in China's Xingtai City, part of Hebei province, were tested for the virus on January 12th and 13th. The next day, the Huaxi Medical Testing Lab delivered the test results. Not a single test came back positive. But by using other means, the city's health department discovered a number of positive test samples. The findings prompted them to retest 10 residents as part of an experiment. 3 of them came back positive. The city announced that the lab reported faulty results on Sunday. Since then, the city has been put under lockdown. Chinese media reported that the lab can process 100,000 samples a day. Operating at that rate, it would have been impossible for the facility to deliver 300,000 individual test results within one day. According to a senior manager from the lab's parent company, the lab was still testing the samples at the time the results were delivered. The medical lab report had not yet been issued at the time. But the lab's management asked employees to expedite the process. So one employee finalized the results before finishing the testing. The lab's parent company has 54 subsidiaries and 33 labs across China. It's unknown if the company was involved in mass testing samples from other cities.
The founder of e-commerce giant Alibaba meets with 100 rural teachers in China via video conference. It's the businessman's first appearance since October, which has triggered a sharp jump in the company's Hong Kong-listed shares.
So I just don't see. After months of speculation about his whereabouts, China's richest man, Jack Ma, has resurfaced in a short online video praising China's teachers. It's the first time the founder of Alibaba has been seen in public since October, when he blasted China's regulatory system during a speech at a Shanghai forum. Those comments set him on a collision course with Beijing officials and led to the abrupt suspension of the IPO of Ant Group, the payments firm he controls. The blockbuster listing had been set to be the largest ever before it was abruptly pulled in November. Weeks later, Ma skipped the filming of a TV talent show he created for African entrepreneurs. His absence led to media reports and speculation that he was missing. Wednesday's reappearance by Ma has driven a sharp jump in Alibaba's shares. In the video, he praises 100 teachers and tells them we will meet again when the health crisis is over. According to local reports, the online event was the Jack Ma Rural Teachers Award ceremony. His physical whereabouts were not disclosed. Ma's video came as Alibaba now faces an antitrust investigation by Chinese regulators.
Up next, a jackpot-winning Powerball ticket is purchased in Maryland. The mystery person has yet to come forward and claim the over $700 million prize. And skiers and snowboarders in the French Alps look to an old pastime since chairlifts are closed. Find out more after this short break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Someone in Maryland has won the fourth largest Powerball jackpot in its history. According to Powerball, 12 tickets sold in 7 states won the $1 million prize. Powerball says one winning ticket for its jackpot was sold in the state. That jackpot ticket is worth more than $731 million. No one has claimed the prize yet, but the ticket holder will have the choice between taking payments over 29 years or a lump sum payout of around $546 million. Someone else in Maryland bought a ticket that didn't win the jackpot, but won $2 million. The winning numbers are 53, 60, 40, 68, 69, and the Powerball is 22. New York City's top earners could face the highest income tax in the United States. That's if the federal government doesn't send $15 billion in aid.
Governor Andrew Cuomo says he might raise taxes to a combined level of 14.7% for New York's wealthiest residents. That'd be the highest state and local tax rate in the country. He says it would raise $1.5 billion and cover the state's historic budget shortfall due to the virus. Cuomo said the previous record deficit was $10 billion. Now it's $15 billion. He wants the Biden administration to cover it by giving New York $15 billion in aid for the next 2 years. If they don't get it, he'll consider raising the income tax 2 percentage points for top earners to 10.86%. That's up from 8.82%. But he says he's concerned the increase would make wealthy New Yorkers leave the state. The top 2% already give around half the state's income tax revenue. State Democrat lawmakers support Cuomo's tax increase proposal. Meanwhile, the top Republican in the state assembly said Cuomo's passing the buck on to Washington, D.C. If the federal government gives New York the extra aid, Cuomo promises new initiatives to help New York recover from the pandemic.
If you own a Ford, listen up. The U.S. auto safety regulator is ordering Ford to recall 3 million of them over faulty airbags. There are problems with Mazda vehicles too. It will have to recall and repair driver airbags for nearly 6,000 vehicles. The recalls cover various models between 2006 and 2012. In rare cases, the airbag inflators burst and send metal fragments flying, especially after long-term exposure to high humidity. The issue with Takata airbags has plagued the auto industry. Earlier this month, the agency said that at least 17 million vehicles with Takata airbags still haven't been repaired. Russian women are taking up new posts in jobs traditionally considered too physically demanding for them or dangerous. Now they're becoming metro drivers, train conductors, and truck drivers, among other things.
Muscovita Sofia Dorofieva had always been drawn to the trains traveling across her vast native Russia. She and her female compatriots had been barred from occupying the driver's seat, until now. On January 1st, Russia shortened the list of jobs it bars women from because of their physical demands or hazardous nature. Russian women can now become train operators, conductors, and truck drivers.
Well, of course, at first it was hard to believe because all of us girls who wanted to get this job were waiting for this for a very long time. And then suddenly the news came out. At first, we didn't believe it, but then of course we had great joy and a kind of calmness because instead of fighting, we could finally just take this position when all the exams were passed.
The battle for Russian women to have access to professions deemed too demanding or hazardous by the state began long before Dorofeyeva's time. In 2009, student Anna Klevitz responded to an advertisement on the train calling on men to apply to become assistant train operators. When her application was rejected because of her gender, Klevitz took her case to court. It eventually reached the Constitutional Court in 2012, but women remained barred from operating metro trains.
I decided that I would try all the colleges and some of them would take me for sure.
Klevitz has been pleased to see her legal battle stir debate, though scores of professions remain out of reach for Russian women.
Soon we'll see a virus expert weigh in on Tokyo's Olympic Games preparation. Rising virus cases confront organizers who say they will not delay the Games any further. And the UK is helping Kenya roll out the CCP virus vaccine. The UK says they regard it as their moral duty. Find out more when we return.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy?
Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive.
Japan's seen a severe spike in coronavirus cases and recently declared a state of emergency in Tokyo and major cities. And with 15,000 athletes and their entourages coming from all over the world, one virus expert from Kobe University, Kentaro Iwata, says it's not worth the risk.
Is it like an attitude of bad gambler? The gambler who are losing money would just pour the money to get it back. But it's usually a bad attitude, and usually they keep losing money further.
Iwata rose to fame with videos in early 2020 criticizing Japan's approach to quarantining the Diamond Princess, a cruise ship that was stricken with COVID-19 before it became a global pandemic. He thinks holding the Games is not a solution, but organisers say postponing the Games again for a second time is off the table, meaning cancellation or going ahead as planned are the only options. And calling it quits would be costly. Over $15 billion has been poured into these Olympics. Iwata also points to Japan's response to the most recent surge, which he says was slow.
Last couple of months, Japan's response was completely a failure, I have to say, because there was enough chance of suppressing the spread of viral infection last year during the so-called second wave.
For now, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has said that the government is preparing as planned, and organisers say they may cut back on spectators, athletes, and even the events themselves. They also say a decision on whether spectators can even enter venues may come by February or March.
And now over to Europe. A top UK lawyer hired by the Hong Kong government to prosecute pro-democracy activists quits. He says it's over pressure in the UK. Neil Woodrow in our UK newsroom will bring us more from Europe.
Hello and welcome. Top lawyer David Perry QC, who was hired by the Hong Kong Justice Department to prosecute Hong Kong activists, has quit, citing widespread criticism and quarantine issues. A Hong Kong lawyer has been hired to replace him. The case is against 9 democracy activists, among them entrepreneur Jimmy Lai, Martin Lee and Margaret Ng. They had police permission for the rally but are accused of breaking the law for protesting outside the Victoria Park area. Britain says it is helping Kenya prepare the rollout of their CCP virus vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. Earl Rhodes has more.
The East African nation ordered 24 million doses of the vaccine and is expecting the shots to be delivered in the second week of February.
It is for us not just our moral duty, but in the British national interest to see Kenyans vaccinated just as soon as we physically, logistically can.
Britain says they're providing technical assistance to Kenya's health ministry to ensure the vaccine gets to those who need it.
This is all part of our new 5-year health partnership, which I will sign today with Cabinet Secretary Kagwe.
Kenya's government ordered its vaccines through the African Union or AU initiative aimed at ensuring African nations are not left behind. According to a draft briefing on the plan by the African Export-Import Bank, African countries are paying between $3 and $10 per vaccine dose. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
Italian coastguards find a submerged dead whale near Naples after following a whale calf in distress. The 65-feet body subsequently surfaced and was closely monitored by the Coast Guard, who decided to carry out an operation to move it to land. They towed the body to the coastal village of Sorrento's harbour. An autopsy will be held to try to discover the cause of the whale's death. The whale's skeleton will eventually be displayed in a museum, the Coast Guard says. Coast Guard members continue to monitor the sea for any more sightings of the calf. Belarusian athletes and opposition supporters welcome a decision to strip Belarus of this year's Ice Hockey World Championship, a prestigious event they say would have given the country's embattled president an international boost. Eddie Aitken has the story.
The arrival of such large international federations holding such a major tournament would have legitimized Lukashenko's rule.
The International Ice Hockey Federation, or IIHF Council, says that it's currently impossible to ensure the welfare of teams, spectators and officials while holding a world championship in Belarus. On Monday, in a talk to the president of the IIHF, Lukashenko said he would not take offense.
Do what is best for hockey, for your friends and for you personally. We will not take offense.
Following the decision, the Belarusian government said it regrets the IIHF's unfounded decision. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
More than 100 British musicians, from pop idols to classic stars, warn their Europe tours are in danger because of Brexit. In a letter published on the Times newspaper, the musicians say the government broke a promise to negotiate visa-free travel for them in the European Union. Signatories of the letter include Ed Sheeran, Elton John and conductor Simon Rattle. Brexit means that UK citizens can't live and work freely in the EU. Though tourists can stay up to 90 days without a visa, artists and musicians are not included in the deal. Russian Orthodox Christians celebrate the Feast of Epiphany, marking the end of their 12-day Christmas period. Some submerge themselves in freezing water in underground lakes. Lorraine Ferrier has more.
Deep in Russia's Perm region, the faithful travel to the Kunga ice cave. The site, a popular tourist destination, is said to be the only cave in the world to offer believers the chance to do so.
We have developed such a good tradition in the city of Kungur to bless the underground lake here on the Epiphany Day.
Through the ice-cold dip, they hope to symbolically cleanse themselves of sin.
I have been dipping for several years. I skipped it last year, but now I decided to come. The cave is a very interesting place, an unusual underground site.
This year's Epiphany is overshadowed by the pandemic. The number of visitors at the cave is limited to 40, whereas about 100 would have joined in normal times. Not all Orthodox Christian churches celebrate the Feast of Epiphany on the same day. Churches in Russia, Ukraine and Serbia follow the Julian calendar and celebrate on January 19th. Lorraine Ferrier, NTD News.
That's all for now. Back to New York.
And soon we'll see a new breed of dog in Russia. The new breed makes for good working and guard dogs, but they're social too. Find out more in just a minute.